I kind of wanted to start the interview by asking how you knew you wanted to have a career in theater.
Well, when I was really young, I was in a children's theater with my sister, and um, she started the trend on me really liking to dance and act and sing and all of that, and I think it was really just um, I never remembered not wanting to do theater. It just really I was hooked and I loved it so much, and I just continued with that, and I just never turned back.
So, was there a performance you did when you were a kid that was like the big one that you liked doing that fulfilled that goal?
Yeah, I think it was when I played Annie and Annie that it made me feel like, no, I think this is what I want to do forever. I don't know if there was like a specific moment that I could pinpoint, but I think that was when, that was my first time really playing like the the lead, and I just loved everything about it, and I just wanted to do it forever.
So then you went on to study musical theater in college. And how would you say studying at school helped you prepare for the career that you would have?
A lot of my school experience in college was about becoming a little bit more uninhibited. I think when you perform, you're in a very sort of vulnerable state. You have to really show all sides of your emotions depending on the character, and I'm learning that a lot right now, being playing Satine in Moulin Rouge, is that she goes through all of this journey of emotions, and there's a lot of times where she doesn't look very pretty, and there's a lot of times where she looks pretty goofy, and she does really funny things, and I think you have to learn a lot about that when you're in college and sort of getting to know who you are and your body and you as a human. And so I think I learned a lot about becoming uninhibited and just being like sort of free and open in college.
That's good. So then you ended up making your Broadway debut in Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved with that show?
So when I was in college, I was auditioning for anything that I could. I got an agent in Chicago, and then I started auditioning for a ton of stuff. And there was at the time, what I thought was the national tour of Mamma Mia came through Chicago, and I auditioned for it when I was a sophomore, and I had a call back. And then I didn't get cast, but then my senior year, my agents called again and said they want to see you again for Mamma Mia, and I thought it was for like the Vegas or the national tour. Turns out it was for Broadway, and so I auditioned in Chicago, and 2 weeks later, I was living in New York City and auditioning and going to my first rehearsal for my first Broadway show. It was so
So,
special.
so when you were auditioning for it, you didn't know that it was going to be the Broadway.
I didn't. I didn't. I was so like, I don't know. It was so green. I don't know if I ever looked at the full breakdown, and it was just like, okay, sure, I'll audition for whatever. And yeah, it was pretty cool because I think that day, one girl they were looking for two tracks, one girl for Vegas and one girl for Broadway, and the other girl got Vegas and I got Broadway, so I got really lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, what was it like the first time you ended up going on stage and performing in the show?
In Mamma Mia.
Yeah,
It was,
gotcha.
I was a replacement, so that means that the whole company doesn't rehearse together. They sort of plug you in, and so you learn a lot of the combinations and a lot of the blocking sort of by yourself or with a dance captain. And at the time, my friend Frankie Grande was also joining the show with me, so it was like the two of us learning, okay, well, this person's going to stand here and this person's going to stand here, and you're going to partner with this person. So it was a brand new learning experience for me. But the first time I went on, everyone had been doing the show for so long that they were very comfortable having all these conversations backstage, and then would wait until like the last second to go on for their cue. And that, I was nervous, and I didn't know, necessarily didn't know the show as well as they did, obviously. And so I was just trying to like go on, trying to pay attention, and they're all trying to talk to me. It was so funny. They're like, so break a leg, and like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, stop talking to me, I just need to go on stage right now, I don't know what I'm doing. But it took only a couple of shows for me to like really get my bearings, but it was definitely super nerve-wracking.
So, in the earlier stages of your professional career, what show would you say gave you the biggest perspective of what the industry was going to look like?
I would say probably Mamma Mia for sure. I learned so much. I was so green. I didn't know like what a swing was. I didn't know what tracks were. I didn't know what a lot of the sort of technical terms were. I didn't know where people lived in New York. You know, I didn't know the neighborhoods or the cool spots or anything industry wise. I wasn't in the know about them. And as far as Broadway shows, I didn't really necessarily know what was on Broadway. It's so much of it that I learned was through word of mouth. Oh, have you seen this show? Have you seen this show? And it was really my next Broadway show was in the Heights, and the reason I even knew about that was because people kept saying, "Hey, you'd be so great for In the Heights. You'd be so good for In the Heights." You know, so I got all of my intel through all of my castmates.
So we're gonna jump ship to the next show. I want to talk a little bit about Aladdin. Um, so what was the audition process like? If you did have one, I know that's not always how it works. Don't always get an audition, but talk about maybe your involvement with that show next.
Yeah, so in 2010 there was I was doing In the Heights at the time. They did a really small intimate reading of Aladdin. And that was before they had announced that they were even going to put it into production. Essentially, they were just doing a reading to create a full version of the play because they had only produced Aladdin Junior at the time, which was a 90-minute show, and all of the high schools and regional theaters really wanted a full production of it. So they said, okay, well, we'll just hire people within the Disney company. You know, Adam Jacobs was in uh, Lion King at the time, so they pulled him to play Aladdin, and they had Jonathan Freeman, who had been in multiple Disney shows, who was the original voice of Jafar. And so, it was really five girls auditioned for Jasmine, and it was just going to be for this reading. But the reading did so well that they sort of fast tracked it, and they thought, wait, this is a great show. I think maybe we should maybe consider bringing it to Broadway, not just licensing it to high schools. And so I was fortunate enough to be one of those five girls. And I was fortunate enough, I re auditioned for Casey Nicola when he joined on as a director. But after that, I didn't have to audition again, which was so nice because essentially my audition was doing the production, and seeing me in the role. And I was fortunate they never replaced me. Thank goodness.
So you did that show for a little over 5 years. What was it like when you had to say goodbye to the role of Jasmine, saying goodbye to a character you dedicated that much time to? How did that feel on that last day?
It was really hard. I never envisioned the time to go by so quickly. Aladdin gave me a lot of my sort of firsts, a lot of my sort of cross off the bucket list things. Original Broadway cast recording, original Broadway show, official opening night. All of those things. And so I had such a special attachment to it because it was such a dream come true that it was officially 4 years on Broadway that I did. And then they kept asking me to come back, and then I would go to I'd come back for a couple weeks on Broadway, and then I would go to the West End and play for 4 months there, and little things at 5 weeks on the national tour at the Pantages, which is kind of crazy because Moulin Rouge is now going to the Pantages next week. So I had so many of my dreams come true with that show that saying goodbye, I always sort of waited for the moment where I knew that it was right to say goodbye, and it was 4 years later. It was like so many years later. But I had already said goodbye to my original Aladdin because he had left after 3 years, and James Monroe Iglehart had left after 3 years, and so a lot of people started leaving. So the show, it felt like a natural transition for me. But I did many months of mourning, and I still have a very special place in my heart for that show, and I always will.
Yes, I do too, for being my first Broadway show.
Yeah.
um, oh, I wanted to add a question. So you've done it tour West End and like Broadway. How did your Jasmine evolve from going back and forth to all the productions?
Yeah, wow. I think the longer you sort of sit in a role, the more things you discover about it. And for me, I think mine evolved into maybe she became a little more uninhibited. I think I had in the early parts of my career was maybe nervous about thinking sort of outside the box in many ways. And I think the longer I played her, the more I was able to think outside the box and able to like um, be more free with her choices and bring a little bit more of me into the character. So that's kind of how she evolved. And vocally, you know, I was still sort of discovering my voice at the time, and I think the more repetition, the more confident you become with your voice and the acting and everything. So I think I was just like so much better by the end. You know, it's like the people that saw me originally at opening night, I was like, oh, I'm so much better now. I wish you could go see me now.
That's great. So still talking about the world of princesses, I want to talk about the Broadway Princess Party for a sec.
Yeah.
The magical kind of touring show that you and some other princesses have done. So when you would do that show, what was kind of the general message that you hoped audience would take away when they would sit through that show and see all of you guys performing?
Great, really great question. I think in in many ways, when you see a performance of um, say a Disney show, you see one sort of lead female character, and in this version, you see all of the leads and all of them working together as one to create sort of this almost like girl power um, show. You know, it would be like the Spice Girls, but like Disney. You know, it was something that without having to shove it in your face. It was just four sort of powerhouse ladies, all of different ethnicities and different characters that they've played on Broadway and different personalities, but coming together and working together as a team to really show sort of the younger generation that it's not about competition or being enemies in that way. It's like, oh, we might all be considered for the same role, but it's really we're supporting each other in that way, and we hope that people will receive that message and go, oh wow, it's not just this cutthroat industry. It's we're showing the younger generation that they can thrive and love one another, and it doesn't have to be, a competition.
Beautiful. Love
Oh.
that. So I wanted to now talk about Moulin Rouge. You're currently playing Satine in that show. I wanted to ask how, so that you're touring with it, going all different places. How do you keep the character kind of new and fresh for each audience? Because every audience is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, so much of the performances too. The response from the audience means so much, and the audiences in different cities are so different that I'm finding. And some of the audiences respond or laugh to different scenes or different moments or different lines than they do from city to city, and that's actually what's really fun and keeps it really fresh. And I think also, when you know that you're going to the next city, you're kind of on your toes because you're still learning the backstage. You have new dressers, you have a new crew sometimes, and so I think that's what keeps it really fresh as far as touring wise goes. And so and it seems so new to me still, even though we've been performing for several months now. But it seems so new and fresh, and I'm still trying to navigate how to discover new things about Satine, and it's really fun.
So, what would you say is your favorite thing about your character?
I would say my favorite thing about the character. I think selfishly, as an actor, my favorite thing about her is that she gets to go on, she has so many different sides. So I get to show a lot of maybe my strengths as an actress through Satine. She's really funny, but she's very confident, but she's also has to be extremely vulnerable in many times. She shows almost every side of her, which I think is really beautiful, because when you show sort of all of your sides, the audience can really go on that journey with you, and they really invest in you, and they support you, and they're rooting for you. And I think I noticed that with the audiences, is that they're on her side essentially the moment that she comes down from the swing. They're like, yeah, we're on board. But then you sort of fall in love with her the throughout the show. And I think you do that with Christian as well. But and then their relationship and how things morph, and so it's not just one note. I don't get bored with her. She's all over the place, but it's great, and it's really fulfilling.
Awesome. So, what would you say is scarier, doing the swing or doing the flying carpet in Aladdin?
Neither. Neither one of them are very scary. I'm not a I'm not necessarily super scared of heights. I would be more scared of heights if I was like on the top of a, a high rise building and looking over. That would scare me. But as far as the swing and the carpet, they always felt very safe to me. I think when I first was on the carpet, it was nice to have another person on the carpet with me, because I'm like, okay, you and I are both going through the same thing. So if you're going down, I'm going down with you, or if I'm going down, you're going down with me. And with the swing, because it's really quick, uh, I don't have to sit up there and like sort of dwell up there for a long time.
Mhm.
It's quite nice. It's a quick up and down, and I think it was scariest when the boys were helping me off the swing at first. I was like, wait a second, this is kind of high, and you're gonna just catch me? Like, that was the scariest part for sure. But I trust in them now.
That's good. So, you've stated that Satine was like a dream role you'd like to play since you saw the film in 2001. So, how does playing her now fulfill that dream you had all those years ago?
I think I think it was such a dream, because I think that film was sort of revolutionary at the time, and I think Baz Luhrmann's sort of cinematography was very unique, and it still is, and it's not like anything else. And I've been a huge fan of his work since Strictly Ballroom, and then of course Romeo and Juliet, and then Moulin Rouge. And I think with our community, we just sort of took on Moulin Rouge as like our own. We already felt like it was a musical, and I think all of my community, we all knew the songs front to back. We knew exactly all of the choices for Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, and I think that both of them did such phenomenal performances, including the rest of the ensemble, that it was just such a unique piece. And I think we had been rooting for it to come to Broadway for so long, and I think because the industry has changed so much, I never visualized that I would ever be considered for a role like that. And so now I just feel so lucky that, the sort of, I don't even know if they even use this technical term anymore, like colorblind casting. I don't even think they use that anymore. It's kind of an old term, but like they can sort of look outside the box and see that like Satine doesn't have to be, a redhead or a blonde, light skinned Australian Nicole Kidman. It's like
Mhm.
she can be anyone. And so I think my dream was fulfilled in that way. And then also, it's the accolades that you get from sort of pouring your heart into such a role, and for it to be demanding as it is. And I think you gain a lot of respect as an actor. And although I think Aladdin was such a beautiful platform for me, you people don't respect you sort of in the same way that they do with a piece like this. And so it's very, very extremely fulfilling as an actor to be able to be recognized for that.
So, I do have one more question, but we still got a little bit more time, so I might add in some more.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
time went by fast.
I
Like, the questions
know.
went by so fast. I'm like, oh my god. So I wanted to end it with maybe some advice you might have for aspiring performers who want to go into the musical theater industry professionally.
Yeah, my go-to always is, they people will always say, train and work really hard and hone in on your craft. And I think so much about this industry is through its connection based, and it's about who you know, and not even in the ways that you sort of have to network your way to be a successful actor. No, it's sort of you you have to continue to lead your life in the kind of way that if you're a good human, if you're a reliable person who's going to show up, if you're responsible, all of these things that make you actually just like a good person also make you very desirable as an actor because they know that they're investing a lot of money into say I come in and they cast me as Satine. They know that they're going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars for my costumes, right? So when they replace me, they're going to have to spend another however many thousands of dollars for costumes for this person. So they're really investing a lot, almost like an athlete, in being the person that they really want to be, like this sort of steadfast um, uh, actor that's going to show up on time and deliver on stage, deliver off stage, be like a kind human to your fellow castmates, and not be an issue or a problem. And I think that is something that people don't really talk about a lot. But you can absolutely ruin your reputation. So much of it is about your reputation, right? You can ruin your reputation by um, being like a pain, or not showing up on time, or not delivering on stage, or kind of going through like an emotional journey. This is all sort of nuanced, but um, I always say just like be kind to everyone because people remember you. I'm always really thrilled when I go into a new sort of production, and I know people through all of these other productions, and they say, "Oh, you're gonna love Courtney." You never want to have the reputation of going like, "Oh, you're going to be working with her? I'm sorry." And people really in this industry, they're like super honest about how they feel about how people are. So just like be a good human and be nice to everyone because everyone's connected in a way. And you want your reputation to be like worthy of like who you are. Does that make sense? I feel like I spent like 10 minutes talking about like one thing, but yeah, it's so important.